Welcome into the Stampede. My name is Ryan Jones. Thank you so much for choosing to listen to our podcast, whether it's the morning, afternoon, evening, whatever it is for you. I hope you're having a fantastic day. I am joined, as always, by my lovely and amazing football fanatic co host, Nick Romero, Ashton Yanez. How are you guys doing today?
I'm feeling
Great.
great.
Well, let's get right into it. If you have been following us the last few podcasts, we are fixing the entire NFL. Pretty easy task, as you might imagine. What we are doing is going division by division, going from worst to first, giving out 3 reasons why we believe we could fix this team or what these teams should do to achieve their ideal offseason. Beginning with me. I drew the Jacksonville Jaguars, unfortunately for me. But actually, I say unfortunately, I think that this team has a really, really good shot to go from worst to first to making the postseason. They went 1-15, obviously, and you guys are probably thinking like, "What? How are they going to make the postseason?" I'll tell you right now, this is what they should do to make the postseason. Number one, don't overthink it. Draft Trevor Lawrence. There are some people out there, I'm not going to say who, that believe Trevor Lawrence is the best or isn't the best quarterback in this class. Urban Meyer doesn't come back and coach in the NFL or come out of retirement to coach in the NFL for one of the worst franchises, historically at least, in the National Football League. I know they're a newer franchise and they haven't really hit their stride yet, guys, but historically, the Jags are not one of the better teams in the NFL. Just draft Trevor Lawrence, and I promise you, good things will happen for your franchise. Trust me. Number two, you have to draft young defensive talent. Being as you're the Jacksonville Jaguars, I don't think you're going to get a lot of defensive minded or defensive free agents. So, and they've actually done a decent job at drafting young defensive talent the last few years. They drafted cornerback CJ Henderson a few years ago, Josh Allen, the edge rusher, Kaylavon Chason out of LSU. So they have pieces in place to be a good defense. They just have to continue to add young pieces. They have multiple first round picks. If you don't trade them away for something, JC Horn would be ideal. The South Carolina corner, if they could draft JC Horn to pair him with CJ Henderson, you would then have 2 awesome corners and 2 awesome edge rushers. That's the making of a great defense right there. Number 3, establish a winning culture. Look, you can draft all the talent you want, but it wouldn't change the ways of the old regime that was back there. A lot of the players didn't like the transition to a new regime. They got rid of them. They got rid of Jalen Ramsey. They got rid of AJ Bouye. They got rid of Yannick Ngakoue. They got rid of all those older players. And you still have Miles Jack in the middle of your defense to kind of help you establish a new winning culture. Look, follow the Browns' blueprint for the next few years. Get the coach right, get the quarterback right, and surround that quarterback who is on his rookie deal with a lot of talent. Go after a Juju Smith-Schuster, who probably wouldn't actually be best for your culture, but he's a number one receiver. So you might, kind of contradicted myself there. But so yeah, those are my 3 things. You have to get the quarterback, get a good defense, and establish a winning culture. Basically, the needs for every single team in the NFL. But at 1-15, that's kind of the obvious ones.
Well, Ryan, I'll say this. When you are the team that is 115 and you have the first overall draft pick, basically the objective is simple. Get the best players you can. Trevor Lawrence is definitely the best player in the draft. They definitely need some better defensive players if they plan on, winning the Super Bowl with Trevor Lawrence under a rookie contract. Establishing winning culture, I think with Urban Meyer coming from Ohio State, who won national championship there and winning 2 national championships in Florida, I don't think that'll be that hard to do. But yeah, keeping it simple, this is just a team that just needs to get the best players available. And I think with having Urban Meyer as a head coach and a GM who just knows his position, it's just simply getting the people you want. Trevor Lawrence, don't overthink it, as you said, Ryan. Just get this guy.
Yeah. And the Jags' offense really isn't that bad. Like, they went 1-15, I know, but James Robinson was a 1,000-yard rusher. They had DJ Chark, who he was hurt like probably about half the year, but he's a really good player. And Urban Meyer, every single place that he's coached at, he pretty much flip-flopped them. I mean, he took teams that were to winning national championships, to winning bowl games, and I know this isn't college, but I think he could do it. He is respected around every football league. I mean, and if there's anyone to do it, I think Urban Meyer can do it.
All right, let's move to probably going to be the worst franchise in the NFL, or in most people's opinions, actually is the worst franchise in the NFL. I don't want to hate on Texans or Texans fans, but let's just get the elephant out of the way. The number one thing that the 4-12 Houston Texans have to do, look, just do the right thing, okay? Just trade Deshaun Watson. It'll all be okay. Just do the right thing. Don't be, you know what's about it. Draft one of the big four, whether it's you trade him for the number one overall pick, who I just mentioned, kind of. You could trade him to the Jaguars, the Jets, the Panthers, the Broncos. Please, the Broncos. I would love that. Look, you just have to get him out of town. Don't make this relationship any more worse than it has to be. He's not going to play a game for you. There's no reason to let this shiny Ferrari new car sit in your garage and collect dust, okay? Let him go. Let him be free. Like, just let him be free. Number two, you have to get a new QB, whoever that may be, Trey Lance, Zach Wilson, Justin Fields. Go get that guy a weapon. You're losing Kenny Stills, Will Fuller in free agency. Go out, spend your draft capital. You're going to end up getting like 17 first-round picks for Deshaun Watson. Get a weapon. Get Jamar Chase. Get Devontae Smith. Get Jalen Waddle, Rashad Bateman. I don't care who it is. You have to get a number one receiver here in this draft when you trade away Deshaun Watson. And then also, I didn't mention this in my first point, but you're going to probably get Tua Tagovailoa if he wants the Dolphins in return. You could flip Tua for like another second-round pick, which gets you another weapon if you decide to do that. Number three, draft young defensive talent and save your money. No one's going to want to come to this team. I promise you that. No one's going to want to play for the Houston Texans because of the ownership and the way they have been run from the top down. It's been horrible. So, draft good defense, and hopefully your culture can change around to where you could re-sign those guys. Save your money. You're probably going to go 0-16 next season without Deshaun Watson and J.J. Watt and DeAndre Hopkins. Your stars are gone. Just save your money and save your cap space for the future.
Yeah, I agree with you, Ryan. I really think if you're Houston, you just have to accept the fact that you got to start over. Even though you're a 4-12 team, you just got to act like you're a 0-16, 0-17 team. Just start from scratch. Your best player doesn't even want to play for you anymore. Trade him. Get what you can out of him. You know it's going to be a good amount. And use those picks to build around another guy that's talented. And this is a draft class this year that has a lot of quarterback talent. Even if you go down to the later round and maybe even get like Mac Jones, he's still a guy that you can build around if you get the right weapons around him. And I really think if you trade Deshaun Watson, that shouldn't be as big of a problem. But, yeah, don't spend the money as well. I definitely agree with you there. No free agent is going to want to come to Houston anytime soon. Regardless of what they do this offseason, the Band-Aid that they got to rip and the damage that they got to try and heal, it's going to take years to recover from. This is not something that it's not going to be fixed within the next 3 to 6 months. It's going to take years before all of a sudden this is a team that will be considered entering the 7th seed in the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't know why they don't want to trade him. It just makes no sense. Like, if teams don't want someone, they just trade him. But if a player doesn't want to play for the team, then we can't trade him. No, we're not going to trade. It's like, I get it. Deshaun Watson is a franchise quarterback. He is a dime a dozen. He is so hard to find. But if he doesn't want to play for you, why? The locker room is not going to be good. The culture is not going to be good. And right now, I think he's at his highest value. Let's say he plays for them and he plays worse because he just doesn't want to be there, then the Texans aren't going to get what they really could. Right now, they could get multiple first-round picks, multiple second, and probably players. And yeah, the Texans just need a full rebuild. No one even wanted their head coaching job, so they just need a full, rebuild.
All right, let's move on to a team that just actually acquired a quarterback not too long ago. The 11-5 Indianapolis Colts.
Yes, so I have the Colts. The number one need would have been quarterback, but we all know Carson Wentz is there with Frank Wright. If there's anyone that's gonna fix him or bring him back, it's gonna be Frank Wright. And so, what better way? You just got to get him weapons. They have almost $45 million in cap, so they have some money to play with. And I think that they should get weapons in the draft. They're pick 21, so maybe Rashad Bateman falls. That'd be a really good fit. Terrace Marshall, who I think Terrace Marshall will be there. Then you could go free agency route. You got Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith, who's actually in their division, so he could just swap over and then play the Titans twice. Marvin Jones, I actually really like Marvin Jones. He's a sneaky good player, and I think he could do good for the Colts. You got Corey Davis and Will Fuller because Carson Wentz likes to throw it deep. No, number 2, I have edge, and they have DeForest Buckner, who he's great. He's good defensive tackle, but I think their best edge rusher last year was Justin Houston, who is getting up there in age, and he's not as productive as he once was. And so I have players like Carlos Dunlap, who just got cut. So depending on the cap, he could come in. Bud Dupree, who was hurt last year, so you might be able to get him for cheaper. Yannick and Ngakoue, he'd be more expensive, but they have the money to get him. And then third is left tackle. Their left tackle retired. I know there was rumors about putting Quentin Nelson there, but Quentin Nelson's just such a good guard that I think that they should leave him where he's at. And one name that I love, and I hope the Colts can do it, is Trent Williams. If they have the money right now. If they could pair Trent Williams with Quentin Nelson, I mean, that line would be unstoppable. But if they don't, they could draft Alex Leatherwood, Jalen Mayfield. There's like other options.
I love that despite the fact that the Colts actually have a pretty decent offense, that we're still trying to improve their offense on the offensive line, getting them more weapons, tight end, receiver, whatever have you. I mean, they already have their running back set in place, who I think is going to end up being one of the best running backs in the NFL, and Jonathan Taylor. This is all about making Carson Wentz as comfortable as possible. You mentioned edge rusher. I really think that this is a team that could sign Jadeveon Clowney to the money that Jadeveon Clowney actually wanted that he didn't get in last free agency. You add him, you have a second edge rusher to complement DeForest Buckner. Then you have one of the best edge combos in the NFL.
I agree. I think the Colts should definitely still do better offensively. I think even though they got the quarterback situation basically perfected, because I definitely thought Carson Wentz was going to be with Frank Reich pretty soon. Getting a left tackle would definitely help just solidify the offensive line. I know, again, there were talks about Quentin Nelson kind of being there playing left tackle or right tackle, but it just makes so much sense to just improve your offensive line because, again, the rest of the offense is actually pretty good. They have good receivers, Michael Pittman, Paris Campbell. They have Jonathan Taylor backfield. They have Clark at tight end. They have a good offense already. So if you can just have a good offensive line under Frank Reich's system, Carson Wentz should thrive in Indianapolis. And then defensively, if you can get other defensive players, especially at the edge position, if you can get create more situations where DeForest Buckner's on one-on-one, I mean, that's a defensive just Super Bowl team right there. So the Colts, they really reminding me right now of the 2015 Broncos, and hopefully they'll find more ways to kind of complete that comparison in this off season.
All right, let's move on to Ashton's second favorite team in the NFL, it seems like, because of who their running back is. The 11-5 Tennessee Titans.
Okay, first of all, they're not my top anything team. Second of all, I do like Derrick Henry, though. I definitely think he is the best running back in the NFL. And when I say running back, Ryan, I mean running back, not catching back. I understand you put Alvin Kamara on the top of your running back
sounds
list.
like you don't know what a running back is, because running backs catch the
what
ball, Ashton.
Running back, not catching back, Ryan. Anywho,
He's
I
not
have the
even the best
Tennessee
running
Titans.
back.
Yes, he is. 2020 record, 11 wins, 5 losses. Lost in the wild card to Baltimore. It was actually a pretty close game. Props to Lamar Jackson actually winning a playoff game.
How was your running back in that one? Anyways.
Yeah. Okay. Number 1, get a pass rusher. And yes, it will cost you. You just need to accept it. If you plan on being a contender in the NFL, let alone your division, you need an edge rusher. If you plan on stopping Carson Wentz twice a year, if you plan on stopping Trevor Lawrence twice a year, if you plan on stopping somehow Deshaun Watson comes back and plays, or a first-round quarterback that's coming out of this draft, you need an edge rusher. So just do it. Rip the Band-Aid. Spend the money. I know you didn't want to with Jadeveon Clowney, but if you plan on getting a solid edge rusher to complete your defense, just spend the money or do whatever you got to do in trading. Number 2, expand the offensive playbook. Granted, I think they're already going to do that because their OC just got hired to be the head coach in Atlanta. So I think they'll have a better offensive scheme that doesn't always involve 3 tight ends and a fullback on like a third of their plays. But I really think that will definitely help Derrick Henry even have a better year and also set up for more offensive plays for Ryan Tannehill in the passing game. I think this Tennessee offense is already good just with Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill, but it can easily be better if they can just get the formations more spread out and not play such old school football. Number 3, improve the O-line. Even when they did spread the formations quite a bit, there were still times when Derrick Henry got stuffed, and that's something that you don't want to happen too often. The last thing you want is to have Ryan Tannehill set at 3rd and long. The way their roster set up, it's just not meant to handle 3rd and long situations. So improve that offensive line, not only to protect Ryan Tannehill, but to make it really easy for Derrick Henry to get his 7-8 yards per carry on a daily basis.
Well, I will say it's going to be interesting for Arthur Smith in Atlanta when he's not forced to feed Derrick Henry the football and actually expand the offense. You mentioned the offensive line. PFF ranked them the 15th ranked offensive line, so right in the middle of the pack. If they want to take that next step to being a Super Bowl contender, most of these teams up there that are, the best in the NFL have these top 10, top 12-ish lines in the NFL. So they're going to have to add probably a piece at left tackle or right tackle. They just traded Isaiah Wilson away, actually, to the Dolphins. So they're going to have to do some work along the offensive line if they're going to want to, kind of take that next step as an offense and a Super Bowl caliber team.
Yeah, and your number 1 need is if they can get that and they could fix that, I think they already make that jump. If I'm not mistaken, the Titans had 19 sacks last year. The entire year had 19 sacks. I don't think that's including playoffs, like just regular season. That's just a little over a sack a game. That's just not going to cut it. It doesn't matter who the quarterback is. They're going to eat you alive if they can just sit back there and there's no pressure. So I just think it's going to cost you. Edge rushers are not cheap anymore. Joey Bosa, I think, reset it, and he's making like 25, 27 million a year. So it's not going to be cheap, but if you want to make that next jump, you're going to have to bite the bullet and you're going to have to spend the money.
Yeah, I don't like to look at sack numbers individually, but I will say I know that they were bottom 5 in the NFL in pressures as well, because I prefer to look at pressures than sacks, but both are obviously valid forms of looking at it. Yeah, pass rusher is definitely a need. And I think that will conclude the AFC South. Thank you so much for listening to the Stampede. Whatever platform you're listening on, do yourselves a favor, do us a favor. Please leave a review. All feedback is appreciated. And subscribe so you never miss an episode of the Stampede. Once again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. For Ryan Jones, Ashton Yanez, Nick Romero, we'll see you guys next time.